This is 1 in 54, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 54 is a weekly show devoted to topics related to autism spectrum disorder.
Welcome back to 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking today with two of my colleagues from Anderson Center for Autism, Josh Hidalgo, who is a behavior specialist in our adult services program, and Tiffany Skerritt, staff development specialist, which is an administrative role here at Anderson. And it's been a really great conversation so far. So thank you both for what you're sharing. So Tiffany, I want to make sure that we give the Career Tracks program, which Josh is currently following and has kind of, I think, provided, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but it seems like it created a nice structure for you really from day one when you were an intern and then became an Anderson team member to kind of move your career forward, which is what it's for. So that's great. I always love that. But Tiffany, I remember you coming down to our suite and, we had flyers to look at and we had language to figure out and we had colors to choose. But really the idea was solid in your head in terms of what career tracks would be used for whom it was created, how it was going to be initially shared with new team members to show them the possibilities and provide encouragement and motivation. So can you just give us maybe a larger summary or something about the program itself?
Yeah. So, back when we first met, we were, starting to roll this out. And just to kind of say a little bit about the career tracks is that this isn't really anything new to Anderson. It's just now more formalized. It has a title to it. We've always promoted our team members to have professional growth, to achieve that career or where they want to be, whether it's, staying in the field of direct support, moving into management and leadership, having something a little bit more focused, like being in the behavior services department, and then so on and so forth. But now it's more of a visual. How can you get from point A to point B? How can I get from this position to that position? And what's good about the career tracks is you can be just like Joshwin and kind of go literally from step one to step where he is, where he did. He went from, the TA, the intern, TA all the way upward. Or it's okay to start in the middle there. You could be already at a management position and decide that your path has changed. And now you're interested in the field of nursing or the field of ABA. And that's what's so great about the career tracks is that it is geared towards the team member, the person, what their interests and goals are. Since we last spoke, we have solidified a little bit more the addition of the IT tracks, so the information technologies track.
Nice. And
we have also, gathered all the information and what steps that you could, quote unquote, take to becoming a registered nurse here at Anderson. So those are two additional tracks. The ones that we previously discussed were anything related to the special education field. So that's the teacher aide, teacher assistant, teacher, things of that nature. The track that, Joshwin took, which was behavioral services. And again, that has a huge variety of steps within that track alone. And then management and leadership. So that's going for either in the residential aspect, manager, coordinator, shift supervisor, and also within that, a little bit of a component of what Joshwin experienced, which was that residential behavior specialist or an RBT, a registered behavior technician. So there's so many opportunities for our staff to take advantage of.
Thank you for that. That's exciting. I'm so thrilled about the IT and the nursing as well. That's something that I know we've seen for many, many years. It's a natural movement, especially from, I think, residential and maybe educational program roles into nursing here. We've seen a lot of people kind of do that on their own. So it's great that we have a structure and a specific track for that. Yeah,
that comes directly from our team members. When you ask them, what are your interests? What are you going to school for? Where is your path? And we have that here already. We have IT, we have nurses. So why not?
Right. So that's interesting that you said that. It sounds like you pulled, when you were putting these together, that you pulled information directly from our current team members about what would, that just makes sense sort of marketing wise, you want to give people what they want, right?
Yeah.
So did you have conversations with team members about that helped inform this?
So we created a career track profile, which is begun during the orientation process. And, you're gathering information from the team member of what are their interests? Are they currently going to school for something? These are the paths that we frequently hear about or educational partnerships that we have. And if there's something that is not listed on there, we want to know about it. Are you interested in things related to human resources, finance? Again, IT and nursing was one of the things that were more frequently of interest, which is why it was a no-brainer to add that.
Great. That's good to know. Josh, I want to go back to you just for a couple minutes. Your career so far at Anderson has taken you from a recreation internship where you said that you got a chance to work on some Special Olympics programs. And I was recently at West Point for my son's soccer game was out there. So it was the first time I've been to West Point since I went to the big spring games, I think, that are usually there or have been there in the past. When I went to that event, to the Special Olympics games at West Point, I remember being so unexpectedly impacted by what I saw. First of all, it was way bigger than Anderson. I mean, our Blue Knights had a beautiful presence there and they did well, and staff-wise and family-wise, there was a lot of us there. But it just got me, like, standing there and watching all of these athletes, especially I think what really impacted me the most was the age range that I saw there. That there's these little kids, and then there's young adults and adults, but then there were these very much older gentlemen I remember participating in a track event. For me, that was a huge takeaway. It really opened my eyes to things that happen in our field, but way beyond the walls of Anderson. I'm curious if there was something specific when you were in the rec department as an intern that kind of touched you or that you kind of keep with you as a memory of that time.
I would honestly have to say the same as you. When I went to Special Olympics, that was my first time really being ingrained in working with people on the spectrum or with developmental disabilities. And it was just, very eye-opening to me because, as I said, this was the first time I'd walked into anything like this, and seeing the amount of individuals around with, different talents and different niches that they specifically, are good at. There's people who are good at throwing, a baseball, people who are good at running, all of those things were just really mind-boggling to me because, in the media, that's not really always portrayed to us. And finally going out to the Special Olympics and seeing these individuals, these adults, these children, all essentially being what we say is normal, having a great time and, being able to participate in something so big and so widely appreciated by that community that I wish, more people got to see that, I, especially coming from the Bronx and whatnot and, watching movies and seeing all these different things about the way people on the spectrum or with developmental disabilities are portrayed, and finally being able to see that. It's like, guys, we've been doing something wrong in the media for a long time now. We should be, showing these individuals doing things that we all do, because at the end of the day, we're all people too. And people need to remember that. I think that's the biggest thing that took me away being there, is that, hey, individuals on the spectrum, people with developmental disabilities, they're people too. And we have to treat these individuals the same exact way you would treat anybody else. They're no different than you and I having a conversation and talking. Some may have some difficulties here and there, but at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all living through very different experiences. And I think that was the biggest moment for me, was going to Special Olympics and finally realizing that for the first time, and then continuing to learn more and more, going through Anderson and the career track and being here for so long. And that's one of the things that's been ingrained with me since then.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And now you've brought that memory and that experience and all of what you just shared to so many people because you've had the opportunity to work as a team member in the children's program, and now you work in the adult services program, where there are some differences. But I think rather we just don't have very much time left, and I don't really want to take away from what you just shared. I was going to ask you if you have any advice or a message that you'd specifically like to tell the listeners, if they're considering either a career in this field or applying for one of the positions that are available at Anderson right now. Is there anything beyond what you just said so beautifully that you would want them to know?
My advice is, be a people person. If you're very extroverted, come here. That's my biggest thing. I'm a very extroverted person. I like interacting, meeting new people. And if that's what you like to do, you get to meet a variety of different people, just between team members, but also individuals on the spectrum. You will be surprised by the things these guys or females will say to you, they'll do. It's just an amazing experience. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. And if you're looking for something very different from the mold, I think coming to Anderson will definitely provide that for you.
All right. I don't know, man. You're going to give me a run for my money on this podcast. That is a wonderful way to finish our interview. Tiffany Skerritt, getting it wrong. See, you threw me, Josh. Tiffany Skerritt, Staff Development Specialist, and Josh Hidalgo, Behavior Specialist at Anderson. I just want you both to know how proud I am to work alongside you. Josh, just hearing your experience so far, it really leaves a smile on my face. And I'm so pleased that you are here and a member of our team and encouraging others to follow your path. Tiffany, thank you for everything that you do to help new team members adjust and come here and see the opportunities that we avail to them and to be part of the team. I love it. And thanks to you both for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you again. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the radio show.
You're very welcome. Thank you. This is 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. And remember, Anderson cares.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and multiply efforts to treat one another with respect, what do you get? Less division. And school sports have it down to a science. Looking for an example of what can happen when we realize there's more that unites us than divides us? Look no further than high school sports in New York.
This message presented by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association and the New York State Athletic Administrators Association.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And now 1 in 54 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And this morning, I am very pleased to be speaking with two of my colleagues from Anderson Center for Autism. We have Tiffany Skerritt, who is a Staff Development Specialist on a return visit to the show. Hi, Tiffany.
Good morning.
And we also have Josh Hidalgo, who is a Behavior Specialist at Anderson. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
It's nice to have you both on the show. I can see your smiling faces because we're on Zoom, but everyone else will just have to trust me that people look bright and shiny and very happy to be here today because they will just hear our voices. So I'm really excited to have you both on. And what we're going to be doing today is talking mostly asking you questions, Josh, about your experience, both currently as a behavior specialist, but also sort of your journey so far at Anderson. I'm I know that part of what we're going to touch on has to do with our career tracks program. And Tiffany, as a staff development specialist, I know you were heavily involved in creating that program, promoting that program, and now managing it and introducing it to our orientees as they come in the doors. So we're going to cover a lot of that stuff, hopefully by you sharing some experiences and stories about what it's been like for you. So let me start with you, Josh. Can you just tell us how long you've been at Anderson, what, if any, other roles you've had with us before becoming a behavior specialist, and how it's going so far?
Sure. So I've been with Anderson for a total of 6 years now and counting. I initially came to Anderson as an intern while working on my associate's degree in human services. I interned with Anna LaFerrier. She is one of the rec coordinators. I spent a good deal of time there, and that was my first exposure to children on the spectrum. And I got to assist with the Special Olympics during that time. It was a great experience. I had a great time there. And then Anna kind of like led me on and guided me to, becoming recruited by the agency. So from there, I started as a teacher assistant or teacher aide. I started off as a teacher aide, and then moving forward, spending some time here, I went through the career tracks and I went through the teacher assistant program. So I went to some of the seminars and whatnot, and I became a teacher assistant while still in school, getting my human services degree. And then once I was moving on to my undergraduate studies at SUNY New Paltz, I switched on over to the direct support professional role. And during those 2 years working on my undergrad in psychology, I learned a little bit more about ABA as it was presented to me when I was in Dutchess by one of my professors. And then once I moved on over to SUNY New Paltz, I tried to dig a little bit deeper, considering I had already been with the agency 2 to 3 years at this point when I went to New Paltz. So I was learning more and more about ABA and continue to move forward with that particular career path. I ended up finishing my bachelor's degree at SUNY New Paltz back in 2018. And immediately after that, I learned about the residential behavior specialist role. And in that role was kind of where I got my footing into leading where I currently am into the behavior specialist role out in adult services. I spent most of my years in children's services. I've only been with adults since July of this year, of 2021. And it's been a great journey. As I was saying, I learned a lot in the residential behavior specialist position. That's really where I got my footing and really got to implement some of the ABA techniques that I had learned coming through the agency and in school and whatnot. Even during that time, while I was in the residential behavior specialist role, that's when Anderson had rolled out the Manhattanville College program, and they were offering the 50% off for the Manhattanville College ABA program. So I jumped right into that. I took full advantage of that discount to go to Manhattanville, and I just finished up my master's in August, and will be sitting for my board certified behavior analysis test very soon. In February, I'll sit for the exam, and then I'll be able to fully call myself a board certified behavior analyst once I complete that test. So Anderson has really pushed me on through the rankings all these years on, and it's been a great experience.
This is awesome. I don't know, Tiffany, just stories like this just make you want to cry of joy. Like you.
I'm really excited. I've known Joshwin since he was a TA. I didn't really get to see a lot of him when he was an intern, because obviously it was more in the recreation department. But, I've known Joshwin since we were both TAs at the same time. And it's exciting to see people, get to where they want to be, and you feel happiness for them.
Yeah, I just was grinning more and more as you spoke, Josh, because part of it is, again, because I can see you, but also because just hearing your voice, the pride that you must have for yourself and your accomplishments, and just the enthusiasm to keep going after it. And you did one of my favorite things that I haven't had a chance to highlight in a long time, but you said yes. You said yes almost every time something was offered to you. And that, I've always told people, that to me is the key to success, because it doesn't really matter, what path you're on, where you work, what you do. But if you say yes to opportunity, even if you're not 100% sure, even if you're scared, you're giving yourself a whole new level of choices to make and for experiences to have. And I'm just thrilled, especially that last one when, all of a sudden then they rolled out the Manhattanville program. And of course I jumped on that. Think about the people who may not have jumped on that or what might have happened and where you'd be if you hadn't. So I'm just like, congratulations and well done. Bravo. I'm very excited for you. And of course, good luck on your exam in February. Sounds to me like you'll go at that, no problem. So I've been at Anderson for 15 years. You probably in your 6 years have had about as many roles here as I have. But I can say, and I know Tiffany, you just talked about it a little bit, that you were a TA and you've had multiple positions here at Anderson and been in different departments.
Yeah.
So the three of us have that in common. And I'm curious from both of your perspectives, what's a positive or a few positives that you would share about just taking your career down that particular track where it's not, one and done, and this is what I'm always going to do, which is perfect for some people, but the three of us obviously went a different way. So Josh, what would you say, would be a positive for you in doing that?
I think the most positive thing is the people I was surrounded by on my way up the ladder. I had a lot of positivity with management, a lot of positivity with my staff members that I worked with, just giving me that push to, go further. And even my personality myself, like I like to be challenged here and there. I don't like to be stuck doing the same thing over and over again. Right. So, moving from the TA to the residential position to then moving to the behavior specialist position residentially, and then moving to adults and doing the behavior specialist position has really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. I've gotten, a lot of different experiences, been able to connect with a lot of different people. And I think that's been the most positive aspect. Even, recently, the opportunity I got to go to a conference up in Albany called the NISABA. And I was able to interact with, Gina Feliciano and a couple other administration people that I typically don't get to interact with and have conversations with, and kind of get a broader look at behavior analysis from their scope of view, because they've been doing this for years on end. And, it's nice to get some of that insight, and everyone is just so helpful and positive. And it's just great having a lot of that positivity around. And that's what's really kept me around with the agency for so long, is that the people I interact with have been genuine. And I feel like, the care come through from each of the people I have interacted with and met.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your positivity is making people stick around for another 30 years right now. That's great. Awesome, Josh. Thank you. Tiffany, what would you say? You had, you can share your experience where, how long you've been here and what you've done.
So I've been here for 13 years in October. And like I said before, I started as the teacher aide, moved into the teacher assistant role in the education center. I moved into a program that is now called the graduate program, previously known as the transition department, which was geared more towards our individuals who are awaiting their adult placement. So working on some different skills than in the, generic classroom. That role, just like, Joshwin had said, that opened up a role that had never existed, which was the graduate program supervisor. And yeah, there was a lot of fear and the unknown, and the ability to be able to say yes to that is you have to jump on that. Because that, I think, really opened up the opportunities for everything else for me to take advantage of. I think what's most exciting is that, for us specifically who have been in the direct support field, then moved into, somewhat of a supervisory role, because that is almost what the RBS position is you're helping support the individuals, but you're supporting the staff to support the individuals. So you're like that, middle management area type role. And then now to move into, your roles above that, all of the challenges and the roadblocks and the hype to get up there really makes you be successful in the role that you're in now, which is exactly what the career tracks is meant to do, is to get you where you need to be at the end and be most successful.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad we have it. I'm glad we have people saying yes to the opportunities that it affords. I'm thrilled that you both are, two of my colleagues here at Anderson, along with the approximately 800-900 people who also work here. But I think you both demonstrate And I'm proud to say that I feel it every day. The opportunities here at Anderson are really boundless, as long as you have that understanding that when an opportunity comes along, if you're interested in it, say yes. So I think that's a good place to take a really short break. And then when we come back, I want to get into some of the more detailed aspects of the Career Tracks program, Tiffany. And also, Josh, I just want to hear more of, what you're doing now, what you like about it, maybe some future goals. And then, unfortunately, it'll be done quickly. But this is great. And thank you for being on the show. We'll be right back. This is 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to 1 in 54, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. Join us for another edition of the show at the same time next week.